Evening and welcome to our third day of the online protest. As many of you know, this was the day where we had the first memorial service for George Floyd. Um, and we just want to honor his life on tonight. As we also remember that on tomorrow, Breonna Taylor, whose life was snuffed out from her when she was in her home in the middle of the night in Louisville, Kentucky, and officers were serving the warrant on the wrong place. And so we want to pause tonight in this online protest. We can't do it for the number of minutes that George Floyd had a knee on his neck by the police officer, but we want to do it for at least 8 seconds. So I want you to join me in a moment of silence for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and so many others, starting with Trayvon Martin, who have lost their lives so brutally. So let's have that moment of silence now for 8 seconds. All right. Well, we are back here for the third night, as I said, of our online protest. I want to just have Bonita Hampton-Smith, who's been with me since the beginning, to join me again. She is the producer of our Beloved Community Talks. You can find out more about that at belovedcommunitytalks.org or go through the kingcenter.org website. So if we can have Bonita Hampton-Smith to join us now. Welcome to our third night of this online protest, Bonita. And we are honored to have people from all over this nation and the world to join us. We wanted to do this platform, as you know, so that people who could not join the protest in the streets would have a place to amplify their voices, to join in a collective effort to call for some things such as the arrest of the rest of the officers, which we know happened on yesterday, and to call for the ban on the chokehold and get people energized and contacting their congresspeople and senators about legislation to ban the chokehold. And then I think the third thing was I think what was the third thing that we were.
So the ban of the chokehold, but you just mentioned we're trying to resurrect 4408, and not only just ban it, we want to make sure when this legislation is introduced that we are supporting it. So we need you to go online and sign the petition. So we're asking people, Dr. King, to go online and sign the petition. For those who are watching via their platforms, we're going to ask our team to make sure we put the petition link there so that everyone can sign the link and support. And we're going to send this message to your senators and your representatives to make sure they hear from you. So please sign the petition. Go online now and make sure you share it on your platform. In fact, right now, we ask that those of you who are watching, to go ahead and tag your friends. Tag them. Let them know you're here, that you showed up at this protest. You may not be able to go outside because you're quarantining and you're sheltering in place, but please share with your friends, tag them online, and invite them to this online protest.
And so tonight we are going to continue, as we were last night, focusing on art, activism, and advocacy. There are those who are in the entertainment arena and those that are in our NFL, and those who are former NFL players who are joining us tonight. And we're just going to have a discussion about their platforms and their ways to influence. And we want to welcome on tonight Yvette Nicole Brown, as well as Alysia Milano. And these young ladies are doing incredible things, amplifying their voice during this time. And both of them are actresses. Alysia started as a girl on Broadway, and she has done many films and movies, and she's an advocate for human rights, animal rights, and has advocated for many causes such as AIDS and Me Too and others for equity. So we want to welcome her tonight, as well as Yvette Nicole Brown, who is best known for her series regular and reoccurring worlds on the television comedies Community, The Mayor, The Odd Couple, Drake and Josh, Girlfriends, and Mom, among many others. So welcome. Is Yvette with us? Is she able to join us? Benita, I don't see Yvette.
It's Dr. King. I just got a message. She's not on yet.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So
she's not on yet. So we're gonna ride along with Alyssa. So
I'm ready.
let's just dive
I'm ready.
in.
I'm ready. I first wanted to just thank Dr. King and the King Center for this opportunity to be a part of this and to be of service at this time. I'm excited to be here. I want to know who's here with us, who's watching, and from where. Please let us know. Also, let us know by tagging 3 friends that, and you can use the hashtag online protest. And we're really trying to raise awareness and also just give people who feel like they can't be in the streets right now for whatever reason, but still want to use their voice and be heard. We want to give them the opportunity. So I feel really, really blessed to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So thank you so much, Alyssa. And I just want you to just share your heart on why you have been moved as a mom and as a white woman to speak up and out for this cause and so many others, even at the risk of alienating some in the industry.
Well, for me, there's no reason to have a platform and be a celebrity if you're not going to use it to try to impact positive change in the world. And I don't want to take up too much time, because I know that this is a place for Black voices to lead and for white people like me to follow. But I do just want to say a few things. My daughter walked in on me crying the other day, and when she asked me why, I told her, and I was really, really honest. She's 5 years old. And she looked at me and she said, "Mama, that still happens?" And it made me realize a few things. One of which, we're not teaching history the way we should. We're teaching civil rights like it's just in the past and we've achieved them. Mm-hmm. But also, I realized my own prejudice and bias to how much I hate racism. I hate it. I hate the system that values my whiteness over anyone else's blackness. And I hate that the most, important words in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, have never really been reflected in our reality as a nation. And I think a lot of white people are coming to terms with this. It wasn't reflected for George, for Brianna, for David, for Eric, for Tamir, for Tavon, for Freddie, for Trayvon. For Malcolm, for Medgar, for Martin, right? I mean, over and over, we're repeating history. We're making the same mistakes, and it's hard for me. I hate it, but I know that we're not gonna win from hate. We'll win with love, and love. I love everyone who has participated in this, who's tuning in right now. I love you. I love this country. I love the patriotism of the people that are in the streets every day, or people that are speaking out to make this country better. And I am proud to fight alongside of you, Dr. King and Yvette, and everyone, Benjamin, to tear down oppressive systems and build something where we are not only created equal, but treated equally. So thank you for having me. Please, everyone, stay safe, stay vigilant, and stay in touch. Talk to me. I'm here for you. I'm here to learn from you.
Thank you so much, Alyssa, and I want to welcome you tonight, Yvette. I know you have a responsibility tonight in just a bit on one of the most important ways that we can bring about change. This is an election year,
Yes.
and many people are talking about the most defining election year that we have faced as a nation. So talk to us about that in terms of, what we need people to do. Obviously we need them to vote, but talk to us about your work in that area and how you're raising your voice.
Well, first, I want to apologize for being tardy. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, very
Okay,
well.
yeah, I was in the other room just waiting, and I was like, well, where is
Yes.
everybody? So I'm happy to be here. I am honored to be here. Thank you so much for all that you do, Dr. King, and I'm just so happy to be here. We are in the fight of our lives. I've been saying that since 2015, actually. I believe that every voice needs to count. I posted something today about the march in Selma, and everyone's protesting right now, and everyone's upset, and rightfully so. But I think people are forgetting that they protested back in the 60s for the right to vote. They were fighting for the chance to vote. So I need everyone to realize that that same thing they feel in their chest where they're like, I got to get out, and I'm going to go out even in the middle of a pandemic to let people know that police brutality is wrong and Black Lives Matter is wrong. Black Lives Matter. They need to also have that same fire on November 3rd and make sure they get out and vote. So they need to register now. They need to talk to people and talk about registering. They need to go to the polls together. We have to change what is happening in this world. And I believe that it starts by voting up and down the ballot. It's not just about the president. I have voted in every single election since I was 18 years old. I don't care if it's for dog catcher. I'm showing up to vote because it matters. That is the
Yes.
only way that our voice is actually heard. We can do this and this is great and we can protest and that is great. But when we vote, we decide who decides whether we defund the police. We decide who decides whether they tear gas us on the streets. These are things that are decided once we show that we care, and we show that by showing up and voting. It's important.
Amen. That is so true. Both of you, Alyssa, you just shared a story about your daughter, and Yvette, I don't know if you heard as Alyssa was speaking. What do we say to our children in this hour? That was a powerful story, and I read your the article that you wrote, Alyssa, sharing the story about your daughter and her interrupting those tears. My daughter came to me and asked me the same thing. Why did the police kill him? So what are we saying to our children? Dr. King and I have been encouraging those in the street, but some of them are so little that they're asking these questions. So what are you saying, and what do we continue to say? And Dr. King, thank you for posting that little girl that was just yelling, "No justice, no peace," and she had to be like 5 or 6 years old. And so what are we saying, guys? I'm gonna just leave that to both of you. Just kind of share, in this space, so parents can be encouraged to have these conversations with their children.
I think that instinctually we often want to protect our children from hurtful truths. I'm not doing it. I think we have to be as honest as we possibly can. I told my daughter and my son, who's 8, I told them the truth. I told them that people are taking to the streets, just like I took them to the March for Our Lives protest. They understand protesting. And that we're going to change things, but the change has to happen with them. So it's important that their friends know that Black Lives Matter. Their friends know, and I have said to my friends, my kids know that Black Lives Matter. Do your kids? And we just have to, look, we have to have these uncomfortable conversations, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong. And you'd probably have a lot of, how do you want me to tell my kids as Black women?
Thank you for the question, Sister Bonita. And I think what you shared earlier.
Yvette? Yeah.
Yes. What you shared earlier moved me. The only difference between what Black mothers are telling their children and what white mothers need to tell their children is what we're facing as Black people, what our children, I'm not a mom, so grain of salt, everybody. But what the children will be facing is akin to you teaching them not to touch a stove. You know, or teaching them to bundle up when it's cold outside. There are things, when you have a child, you're teaching them how to be human, right? How to be little humans and responsible little humans. So the same conversation you have about danger seen and unseen that you would have, don't stranger danger, don't get into a van with someone. Racism is as dangerous as that, especially to Black kids, right? So you need to start young and let them know that racism hurts people. Racism is as dangerous as that fire that comes out of the stove that mommy tells you not to touch. So you need to learn how to spot it and how to fight against it, even as a baby.
Yes.
And I want to add something, because obviously my father was assassinated when I was 5, and my mother had to do a lot of explaining and demonstrating, more importantly. I think the first thing that it's important for parents to demonstrate what they want their kids to, how they want their kids to respond in this moment. It's okay to show your kids your tears in this moment. Your hurt, your pain in this moment. Give them permission to feel that pain and to have that journey. But the second thing that my mother taught me, which is consistent with the nonviolent philosophy of my father, when we look at these kind of issues, we're trying to defeat injustice and not people. And so she constantly told us in our household not to hate the person who killed your father. Because it's so easily in this moment to want to hate the law enforcement officers, to want to hate President Trump, to want to hate those people who have been abusive in the past. And what we don't understand, and I know it's difficult, and I can say this as one person who went on a journey from anger into hate, where I hated all white people and especially white males. And I had to come out of that, unfortunately, because of what I was taught as a child and the kind of people I was surrounded with and my Christian faith. I was able to come through it. But hate injures the hater more than it injures the hated. People who you hate don't necessarily, most people who hate Donald Trump will never come face to face with Trump. So who are you hurting when you're hating him? What you have to do is to take all of this emotion, and we have them, a barrage of them. And I tell people, experience emotions, but don't become the emotion. And so you got to rechannel it, as you said, taking them into these marches, rechanneling it by helping them to understand history and how they can play a role at such a young age. There were young people in my father's movement, even as young as 7 and 8 years old, who joined in Birmingham, who wanted to make a difference. And the younger ones were told, I tell you what, you go to the library and read a book. So they helped to integrate the libraries. So everybody can be a part of it. More importantly, let's try to model for them not to let the emotion overtake, because that's what's happening. And it's okay to get some counseling. It's okay to get some counseling. The Black community has been traumatized.
Well, yes. And also I want to say that in the midst of it all, it's okay to still have a little hope that it's going to be okay. You know,
absolutely.
We're weary, we're exhausted, we're tried on every side. But there is still space within that yuck to find a little hope that it's going to be okay. The hope that I find is that we're not marching alone. We're not fighting alone. For the first time, I'm saying Black Lives Matter, and white people are saying Black Lives Matter back to me. I don't have to explain the difference between I don't have to explain why all lives matter hurts. They can get it now. I can't tell you how many of my white friends have called me crying. They're not just saying, I feel sorry for you. They feel sorry for me. They feel sorry for what's happening in this nation. And that's a shift.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
And this is so helpful. I'm hoping that other people, white people that are watching this, are also getting something from it. But I feel like when I call my Black friends crying, that sometimes I can't put my emotion and my burden, I can't burden them with that, so that I don't want them to carry their own generational emotions and trauma plus my trauma. And I wanted to know if is it the right thing to ask for consent when we're starting those conversations? Like, Yvette, like if I were to call you and say, like, can I have a conversation with you? Is this an okay time for you? Are you willing to dive in right now? Because I certainly don't. I know that what you feel right now is supersedes anything that I can possibly even muster. So how do white people broach those conversations? And I do understand, like for a while, and this was my issue, I would look at solutions from my black friends, and then finally someone said to me, you know what, I'm not answering this anymore. You're a smart woman, you could figure out how to educate yourself on these issues. And I was like, oh, and you know why I was doing that? I was doing that because I wanted validation, right? From people saying, oh, look at her, she's asking questions. No, I want to encourage everyone to do. There are lots of books, there is Google, there are lots of movies, lots of documentaries. You educate yourself on the 400 years of oppression.
Yeah. And this, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. That's all.
This is the thing you understand, that most black people in this country we're calloused, right? So we're feeling it, but it's nothing new for us. So you need to remember that first of all. So it's new to you guys, but it's not new to us. So that's the first thing. So we're equipped to deal with, and it's sad to be able to say that we're equipped to deal with it because we've had to be equipped. I think that it's important that you know that. And
thank you.
Just the idea that black people, and I hope this doesn't come out insensitively, but black people for the most part are used to managing white people. We're used to making you feel better and coddling you and making sure you don't get the full brunt of our fear or our anger, frustration. Moving white spaces so much that we feel like we know y'all better than y'all know yourselves. We definitely know you better than y'all know us. So just know that anytime you call a black friend, they already know how to speak to you. They know how to comfort you. Now, the gift that you can give us is what you just said. Is it a good time? I'm just popping in to say I'm feeling something and I love you. And is it a good time for you to receive this in addition to everything else you're dealing with? And if that is your friend will be honest and go, well, you know, Alyssa, it's not a good time.
Yeah.
And then you go, thank you very much. I'm going to go read White Fragility and these other books. And I'm going to watch 13. And when they see us, and I'm going to get this together. And we'll talk after I do my work. So if it is a friendship there's no problem with saying, hey, you know, but just know that you will not further harm us or further debilitate us by crying. You know, just make sure it's a good time for us to receive and everything's okay. Everything's okay.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't mean to cut in. This is a great conversation, but unfortunately we have some other guests we have to bring in, and they keep us on this tight schedule. So I want to thank both of y'all.
This was good, Dr. King.
This was a really needed and rich
you.
conversation, and I appreciate you all engaging each other because that's what's needed in this hour if we're going to make it through it together.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because this is not about one community making it; it's about all communities making it through this. Yes.
Yeah.
And
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I think I speak for Alyssa when I say we're so honored that you asked us to do
So honored.
Thank you so much.
To be of service. Thank you.
Thank you. And please encourage more people to sign our online petition. You ladies, we appreciate you.
Will do.
Wow, Benita.
That was really good, Dr. King.
That was rich. So, wow.
I will sit back and that's really an authentic conversation.
Benita keeps freezing up, you guys. I don't know what that means. So when she unfreezes, we will welcome her back. But we are going to, you're back? Are you back? You're back.
I'm back, you know. So
Uh-oh, you're frozen again. So we're going to shift gears. As I told you, we have some athletes with us.
Yeah, I don't know what's going
tonight.
on. So Dr. King, just make sure that you just you know, you get ready to get on the field with some athletes.
I'm getting ready to get on the field. I like that. I'm used to that. I played a lot of sports in my younger years. Alysia Montano, a 2012 Olympic athlete and 7 world champion for track and field. She's been vocal about doping and demanding changes. She's well known for competing and running. Hear this, you all. Wow, uh, while 8 months pregnant. That's something else. My God, you've got some in you, sister. And then I want to welcome Benjamin Seth Watson, the former American football tight end drafted by the New England. I don't want to say that. Patriots.
Wow.
32nd overall
Already.
in the 2004 NFL. I'm so glad we don't have to see them. I'm so glad we didn't see them this year. I was so glad.
Who was we? Who
All
was
of
we?
us cheering for Kansas City this year.
Oh, Kansas City. That's your team, huh?
It was this year because I gave up on my home team for a minute. But anyway, he 32nd overall in the 2004 NFL draft, and later he would win Super Bowl. What is that? 34. With the team, with the Patriots. Y'all know about those Patriots. Constant Super Bowls over the Philadelphia Eagles.
So your team is who, the Falcons? Who's your team? The Falcons?
I really don't have a team because the Falcons have let me down, so I had to just.
Well, how about-
I had to pop those for a minute.
How about the Georgia Bulldogs? Can you get on with them?
I can get on.
Because that's my team too.
Oh, okay, I got you. So,
okay,
so we're
that's my
connected
team.
now.
We're connected.
And then,
all right.
Yes, and then I want to welcome my good friend Chris Draft. He did play for the Falcons at some point.
Yes, I did.
Chris, I hope you forgive me for talking about our home team down here, American football linebacker with the NFL. He played also for the Chicago Bears, the San Francisco 49ers. I'm glad you didn't play for those Patriots. The Buffalo Bills, Carolina Panthers, and the St. Louis Rams. And after losing his wife to lung cancer, he continues to be an advocate for patient care and for the American Lung Association. And we just appreciate everything that you're doing, Chris.
Thank you.
And welcome all of you to tonight's conversation. Benita, I'm going to let you just dive in here before you freeze up on us again. Looks like she's typing.
Yes, I was about to let you. I was typing because I was going to tell you if I freeze, I'm going to just tell them to take me off screen. So listen, guys, one thing we like to do is to do a check-in. So before we just dive in, let's check in. Alyssa and Benjamin and Chris, how are you doing?
Unless you go first, Alyssa.
Oh, thank you. It's this is not new, and I think it's a lot of it is just helping people recognize this. We've been telling you this for a really long time of what Black people have been experiencing in America, and I think there's a lot of emotional weight, right? And carrying emotional weight from years and years and years, and feeling a little bit of, okay, now I'm going to amplify it. I'm going to scream it at the top of our lungs, and I want everybody to be able to hear. I think I'm feeling a lot of that push and pull of emotions. It's a nice, it's a very interesting time to kind of even check in with yourself about all of the things that you're feeling, especially because there's an outpour of, everyone trying to figure out how they can do their part, and then you just doing your own processing from within yourself. So there's a lot that's that I'm feeling.
I would agree. I think that it's compounded trauma. And even if we don't experience something individually and personally, we carry trauma from the experience of others. I think in many of my conversations, what I've tried to explain is just because that wasn't me with the officer's knee on my neck, I still feel myself as though that was me. There's a certain ability, I think, that we have inherently, especially in our culture, to relate to the experiences that we feel. And so this week has been a long week, but it was not just this week. I mean, it goes back to last week and the week before and the week before, and then it goes back years and years. And especially for me, being a father, my wife and I have 7 children, ages 11 down to
Wow.
one-year-old twins.
Wow.
And so having these conversations with the kids I think has opened up really a great opportunity to talk about these issues, because we try to explain them to them in a clear fashion. Obviously, it's something that's able for them to understand, but we don't want to totally shield them, because this is the world they're living in, and it's going to be important for them to be able to navigate these issues, because as we know, they've been going on for a long time, as much as we fight to end them.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Yeah. So, man, thank you guys for sharing. Thank you, Dr. King, for having me on to join in this conversation. It's been a, you're saying this check-in. I live in downtown Atlanta, so if you guys have seen the news, I basically can walk out, on the street, and I'm right in the middle of the protests. So it's been amazing to see the diversity, really see the diversity up close with social distancing, but to see, just a tremendous group of diverse people out protesting. Unfortunately, we've had some of the unrest, so Friday night. So Saturday morning, I was out cleaning up the College Football Hall of Fame and sweeping. But again, another group of diverse people that recognize the importance of putting things back together. Another great protest the following day. But then unfortunately that night, the Children's Museum, the windows got broke out of that. And so again, that morning, up sweeping and putting it back together, and really with both of those circumstances, trying to talk to the College Football Hall of Fame about how football is about controlling emotions and making sure we stay in line with the game plan. And Children's Museum, how do we take this opportunity to integrate more of inclusiveness, with the books and demos that they do? How do you use this opportunity of what happened that was bad to do something that's good moving forward?
And that's what I really want to push to now, because we wanted to use this platform not just as a moment to state what our protests are or our grievances, but we also want to use this as an opportunity to move us in the direction of solutions, because the reason people are protesting is because they want change. So I want to ask you, Benjamin, how do we get equity in the sports industry?
Well, that's a huge question, Dr. King. I think, yeah. and there's so many levels, because when you talk about the sports industry, many times we just think about the athletes, but it's athletes in multiple sports, male and female, and then you've got to talk about coaches. And then not only coaches, but C-level positions, so GMs, team presidents. You talk about ownership, but then outside of actually the sport, then you start thinking about the sports industry in the realm of journalism. You talk about TV journalists, you talk about print journalists. The list goes on and on when you talk about $1 billion sports industry and how equity is served properly in those industries. Even in my conversations with other journalists, there is actually a fear and a trend that the black journalist is disappearing. Like, where are the black journalists? Meaning those who actually, are not former players, but they went to school for journalism. Where are they? How are they being represented? What are the jobs they're able to get and to keep? And so there's a broad spectrum view. I'll try to narrow it down to the NFL. When we look at the NFL, obviously the draft was broadcast this year in April. And we got to see what so many people every single year talk about when we talk about hirings of black coaches and we talk about hirings of black GMs and presidents. Everything was laid bare, because virtually we were able to see all of the decision makers in these front offices. And that kind of brought back the discussion, but in a different way, because now we can actually see what everybody's been saying. You're talking about 2,000 players in the NFL or so. The league is about 65, 75% black. We could say there's definitely progress and equity there, because you're judged by your measurables a lot of times, your height, weight, your speed, your accuracy, all those sorts of things. When it comes to decision making, it's a little bit hard. It's a little bit harder. So there's 3 black coaches out of 32. There's 31 owners, and one team is held publicly, but no black owners. And so there is a feeling from coaches that they have been overlooked. So when it comes to equity in sports, it's the same thing as equity in society. Sports is really a microcosm. When you look at society, it's about having an opportunity. It's about having equality of opportunity, not necessarily the outcomes. People want an equality of opportunity, and especially in sports as well as business. You fight nepotism. People hire who they've been around. And so one thing that we're really focusing on right now and really trying to have discussions about is how do we get qualified young men, black young men or women who are interested in coaching, let's just say coaching, how can we get them into the circles, the pool that the decision makers start picking from? And because when that starts to happen, when you start to get guys who are becoming coaches who weren't necessarily players for 10 years and then became coaches, but you just start to get guys who were just football nerds, didn't play football, but they were in the sphere of the coaches and the GMs, and they start getting there, then you start to see the progress that we all want. But equity in sports it is a process and it is a problem, but it simply reflects everything that we're seeing that you mentioned before when it comes to wealth gap, when it comes to education, when it comes to housing. It's simply mirroring what we see in society. So we have to address all those issues outside of the game, and that will address the issues in the game as well.
So let me ask this question, Alysia, Chris, if you can just chime in on this. Have the conversations changed a little bit since the Colin Kaepernick kneeling? Have we seen any shift? Because I've seen shift in other places. You know, listening some of the white corporate leaders that I know, there's been a shift in their mentality. But has there been a shift, do you think, in the industry?
Dr. King, can I add to that question since you brought that up? So in addressing that also, and I told Chris we were going to bring this up. Can you tell us how, let me just say this. I listen to...
Is this the Drew Brees?
It's the Drew Brees. Well, because we have to talk about it. I think that, how do we bring about understanding in this time with your fellow colleagues and the other players? How do we educate at the same time, work as a team? Because I'm telling you, had I not been trained in nonviolence, if Drew had thrown me a pass, I would miss it. So because I'm like, come on, dude. So what do we do to educate in this hour? Because what we cannot do is let a skilled publicist write a statement on behalf of someone and then just move on with that kind of apology. So how do we address that? And then also Dr. King's question.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think the most important thing is recognizing that just because somebody's in the room with you, just because you're on the same team, doesn't mean they know you. And I think, what hurt Drew when he made his statement is that he hasn't been in the locker room. COVID has made it where he's not in the locker room. So when all these things have happened, from Ahmad to Rihanna to George, he didn't see the guys. He didn't see his teammates. He didn't see how they were feeling. He didn't see them. He didn't see the emotion that they would have had, because of that, of seeing themselves in it. I think, sometimes when you see us as athletes, even some of our brothers that are, from college to the NFL, as they see us as different, and they don't realize when you see a black guy that's on the ground that pretty much all the brothers in the league, they think that could be them. And it's not like, oh, I think it could be me. It's like, no, really, I think it can. And so I guess, the key is recognizing this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to realize that a guy like Drew, that even though he's in the locker room with so many brothers, that he missed it. And it just challenges us to make sure that we educate that much more, that we don't assume that people understand, but that we make sure that we're extremely intentional. And so hopefully with Drew's education, that he'll be able to share, and that it can also be an opportunity for other people to learn as he's learning about really what America looks like, and that all men are created equal. It was good. It was written, but it wasn't put in place without fight. It doesn't change without fight. It doesn't get validated without fight. And that fight is something that it happens every day.
And Benjamin, because you played with Drew, right? You played with him, and you talked about your grandfather, I believe, served in the service as well. So please share. And Alyssa, I want to make sure that you, from a female athlete, you know, I know we have the same, not we, you know, I played a long time ago, but I want you to share from your perspective as well, because sometimes we're left out of the conversation as women. But yes, Benjamin, you played with him. Let's hear it.
Yeah, yeah. I played with him for 4 years, and he's a close friend. I actually spoke with him last night,
Awesome.
and I think that he would say, and in his apology today, and you know, I think he wrote it. He's pretty good at that sort of thing. He knows he missed the mark. He allowed an interview to get out of hand. Now that doesn't change the way he feels about the flag, and feels that people should stand for the flag. But there's this crazy nuance there where you've seen his actions, you've seen his heart. He just can't get the fact that people will kneel for the flag, and there's people like that.
Yeah.
There are people who feel that way about the flag, yet they will have empathy and they will stand beside you with whatever cause you're fighting for, whether it be criminal justice, whether it be housing, whether it be voting, they will stand beside you. But for them, that flag means that. And I don't think that's going to change with him. I think the key issue there, when you have someone whose stance is like that, which this is America, we have a right to be wherever we want to be on that, is that they have to be able to say, this is my stance, but I understand and I give you the freedom to kneel if you want to. And I think that's where it struck people, not simply because that was his stance, because look, in the country, you're going to find a range of how people feel about what it means to respect or disrespect the flag. But where in speaking with him, he missed it was simply by allowing, especially during this time, during this week, during the last month, of saying that without allowing others the freedom to do what they feel they need to do because of what's going on.
Yeah, to grieve and to mourn. Okay, I'm sorry.
I wanted to say something, and there is a nuance. There's a nuance between a flag that's a symbol and those who are fighting in other countries for our freedom. There's a nuance. So it bothered me when you put a flag as a symbol in the same conversation with Colin kneeling about a person and humanity and police brutality, which is an act of abuse versus a flag as a symbol. That's problematic for me.
Well,
so I just want to say that. But
let's hear from
at least.
Okay.
Let's hear from our lady first.
You know, it's interesting that we're talking about protests right now. We just had one of our U.S. Olympic hammer throwers in track and field express the need for an apology from the USOPC. Last year, she competed at the Pan American Games and finished with a medal, and she put up her fist in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick. We had Race Bowden, a fencer, who knelt at the Pan American Games in Lima. And the USOPC had sent them a probation for a year and has sent all the athletes a letter that basically said, if you guys protest, you kneel, or you show any sort of political statement, you are now going to be put on probation. This is just implemented.
Wow.
From them doing this. So we moved back, you know, in the fact that, you know, the Colin Kaepernick's protest, and I think there's just the fear people were having of like, oh, how dare you disrespect this flag? But what people need to understand is that flag for Black people does not represent freedom.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the space of empathy and compassion, and to take yourself out, take your white lens off, take that white lens off. That's what compassion, that's what empathy is, to see, oh, it doesn't have to be my shoes. And I need to recognize 400 years of oppression is ugly.
Yeah.
Of course, we have not allowed a space for Black people to be free. What? You say, okay, now I just talked about this in an interview I just did. Okay, you have an opportunity to vote. You're free. Okay, you guys can get jobs. You're free. You're allowed to go to college with everybody else. You're free. white people have yet to understand that oppose, Colin Kaepernick's protest, what that flag has been representing for a really long time. The land of the free for who? The land that was looted from indigenous people. The land that had white people loot black people to build America. We have not been paid for any of the work that we did to make America what it is for them.
Wow.
We're not free.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So how do we challenge? We have to wrap up this session. So each of you, how do you challenge your peers in this hour? And what does, as to Dr. King's point, what does moving forward look like in the sports industry? What does forward movement look like? And what are the words you would say right now to challenge your colleagues and call them, tell them to start? Go ahead, Dr. King.
And Benita, can we put like a 30-second limit on it? Because we do have to shift.
I'd like to just say really quick, we cannot move forward if we do not do this together. This is team. This is what we're talking about. We cannot move forward if we can't do this together. Take off that foggy lens that we've been having. It's very, very clear right now. The NFL players, you need to kneel. This is a time where we're not asking you to stand. You need to kneel with your teammates. That broader statement, that it makes it a narrow space for us to actually move together.
Okay. Chris.
I just want to just go back. I know I got 30 seconds. I think it's critical when you see the flag is you have to see the ideals of America. And what you really need to ask yourself, that's why I wanted to say is, why doesn't somebody feel like that they could stand? That's the part that needs to be asked. Why does somebody feel that they cannot stand? I mean, Nate Boyers that told Cap to kneel. A Green Beret said it's okay to kneel. It wasn't Cap just kneeling. It was a Green Beret that said it was okay. But the question that everyone should be asking is why? Why do you feel that way? And I think that goes to the point of what we have to do is we need to be educated. We need to know that we are in a fight and that if you want things to change, it's not going to just happen. That the changes that we've had in this country have come because people have fought. And so if we get complacent, don't be surprised if we fall back. If we want to move forward, we're going to have to fight.
And Benjamin, what does that fight look like, Benjamin? What does it look like? How do we move forward?
Well, as athletes, I think we understand the meaning of hard work. We understand the meaning of preparation. We understand the meaning of educating ourselves on the process, on where we are, on how we can engage. And we also understand the ability to apply consistent pressure over and over and over again. We know how to not be relentless. And so with something as important as our lives and our livelihood and our children's livelihood, and in respect to all the people that came before us. I mean, one of the things, we talk about is, and you nailed it, Alysia, when you talk about not feeling whole. There's a sense of not being made whole. And it's our responsibility to make sure all those people that came before us are made whole. We have to do our part. And so the way it looks, we talk about doing it together and all those things, but it has to come with empathy, has to come with educating ourselves and making sure other people educate themselves, and then empowering each other to do the work. We can't do it if we don't put the work in and if we don't encourage other people to do it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank all of you. We appreciate you for joining us tonight. And if you will make sure you encourage others to sign our online petition, we would appreciate it. So thank you for taking time out of your schedules tonight and sharing with us.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for having a hard conversation with us. Thank you.
Yes.
So it's a right conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So, Dr. King, and I guess Tara's joining us. Hi, Tara. They popped Tara in. How you doing, Tara?
I'm great. How are you? It was great conversation tonight, ladies.
Thank you so much. So, Dr. King, I think, it was very, what I thought it was important for us not to just allow that elephant to just be in the room, because this is about protest. And people need to understand that when people are kneeling, whether it's a flag, if they're, laying in these streets, your father, they kneeled and when they went downtown, and the children kneeled with them. And so I think people need to understand that this is with any form of protest. I think, what did you say, Dr. King, that we need to make sure that everyone understands their right to protest. And we do not need to sanitize that. So I thought it was very important to speak on that conversation about Drew.
Yes, and we want to welcome now also Delise Drain, who's one of our nonviolent trainers at the King Center. Welcome, Delise Renee Drain, to our conversation tonight as Tara shifts out so quickly.
Yeah.
Tara just disappeared. I mean,
disappeared. I guess you got that kind of power. There's some power in you.
I
Delise
guess
Drain
so.
shows up, things disappear.
Well,
Right.
sometimes it's good to know who's working behind scene and making things happen.
That's right.
So
Yes,
thank
and we
you.
want
Turn the lights on. So Tara,
Yeah, Tara, thank you for everything that you have been doing to hold us up, and also to Drew Katoa and her team for all of the technology support and the wonderful art that Drew Katoa created with the "I Can't Breathe" going throughout that flag to represent so many issues in America that we just have not been able to overcome, and it's taken the life out of us.
Yeah, they're doing an amazing job.
Yes, they are. Delise, talk to us. This platform really is a nonviolent online protest platform, and we all know as trainers in my father's philosophy methodology of nonviolence, that nonviolence is ultimately the answer to our political and social ills. That violence never solves a problem. So talk to us in this hour.
So Dr. King, they don't know who Delise is. We all know.
No, I told them she's a trainer. She's a trainer.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's a trainer, but she's also an author. And she's also a strategist, and she's a bad lady. You also just want to make sure we add that too. So, thank you. Just want to make sure we let them know who you are. So, thanks.
I just want them to know, Benita, that I did not pay you to say that, right?
I'm looking for my cash. My cash app.
I know.
Okay.
So you know what? I was thinking, Benita and Dr. King, about what nonviolent nugget that I could bring tonight. And it's so interesting because I want to speak to the ones who are still wondering if nonviolence really works. We can't make the assumption that everyone believes nonviolence. And so I'm an example of that. My testimony is this. I never saw myself as being violent until I really understood that it's not just, physical violence, but it's words that you use. And people who know me from way back know that I have a way with words that it's almost like you would say, well, just go ahead and slit me. I'd rather for you to do that. But it took me a long time before I committed to nonviolence. Benita knows this. Dr. King knows this. I think it was 3 or 4 years that you all kept going after me about, come on, take this training, take this training. But I wanted to be congruent with the training. I didn't want to take something that I just couldn't follow and practice myself. And so I want to speak to the people tonight all across the country who may be listening and are wondering, does this nonviolence thing really works? It does. But I'm not here to sell you on nonviolence, because nonviolence can speak for itself. It can hold its own in any room. And so I want to challenge those of you tonight who are watching to try nonviolence as a way of life. Principle 1 is where I got stuck, where it says nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. And you really don't understand that until you get into it and start trying to practice nonviolence. In your everyday life, in your communication at work with your coworkers, just your mere essence becomes, a person of nonviolence. And so the one thing that I want to take away or give tonight is I want to challenge those of you who are watching. Dr. King's words, Martin Luther King Jr., his words are real today. And so I'm going to put a little plug in. I don't know if you can see this book, but I want to challenge you. If you have not read Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos of Community, pick it up. I guarantee you it will change your life. Dr. King left us a blueprint that applies today, even with the protests today. Everyone may not be able to be out on the street protesting. So you have someone in your group who says, hey, I can't be out there protesting, but I can make a difference in the in policy making. So everyone plays a valuable part in NV 365, as we so affectionately call it.
Thank you,
So
Drain.
that's my nugget.
Well,
And they
thank
don't
you.
know Drain.
Oh, that's what happens when you have people on that you really, really know. So, Drain, I'm with you. Delise Drain is her entire name. So, Delise, I can't tell them the R, but Delise Drain. I'm with you. Nonviolence has been really a daily, moment by moment
Most definitely.
choice. Moment
Yes.
by moment choice to choose the highest, truest version of yourself, to always choose love over hate. And when we
Yeah.
were having that conversation even a minute ago, this morning, I wrestled with what Drew Brees had shared, and then I spoke to Dr. King. And Dr. King, you started talking about love, mercy. How did you put it? You said love, mercy,
Love,
and
mercy. We preach a lot about doing justice, but it also says love, mercy.
Yes.
yeah, do justice but love mercy. And so I read that statement that was written, and I had to start processing all over again, because nonviolence is a moment by moment decision. You
It
process
is.
it, but you have to choose love, and then you have to choose to walk in forgiveness and choose to allow people into the family even when they make mistakes. Because we're
Right.
going to, as we begin to come together as a black and white fabric, brown fabric, all various races and colors, this tapestry is going to get hard. But we've got to make room to welcome people into the family, even when they say some stuff that just sounds really crazy, dumb, off the wall. And I say the stuff sounds dumb, not calling them dumb, because we attack
Right.
the issue and not people. And so even
And,
with that, with reading
and
Drew
here's
Brees'
the other
comments,
thing,
yeah,
Benita, just to piggyback on what you just said, and realize you're not perfect. None of us are perfect. Even in this
right.
walk of nonviolence, you may slip. I remember there was a situation that happened with me, and I got pushed to a limit where nonviolence went out the window. But the impact that it had on me after, I cried because I said to myself, I cannot believe I allowed myself to get to that point where I allowed someone to control my mind, my process of how I was going to deal with the situation. So it's a day by day, moment by moment process
And
that we
and
all
and
get to.
and yes, and it's a choice. And America's choice is facing us now: nonviolent coexistence or
Right.
violent co-annihilation. That's what
Right.
Dr. King said. We still have a choice today. And what we've seen in the streets is the coming, I won't say coming together, but the facing of those two choices: peaceful protesters and those hell bent on destruction. That destruction reflecting the seeds that we saw in this country of violence that now have come up and sprung up in our nation. But it's standing side by side, and we have to make a choice. Do we want to
Right.
choose community, or we want to choose chaos?
That's
Only
right.
nonviolent, peaceful protests and nonviolent means and nonviolent living can lead us to a peaceful end that has justice with it. And so we want to thank you for joining us tonight. We want to remind you to sign the petition and advocate for the the no chokehold legislation that is slated to be introduced in the Senate and in the House. And we remember tonight many of those who have left us at the hands of police outside of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. And we just thank you again for being with us. Don't forget to vote. Exercise your citizenship right to vote and stay engaged. And we will see you on tomorrow for our fourth night of online protests. Good
Yeah.
night.
Dr.
And
King,
remember, no
can you
justice,
tell
no
them?
peace.
Can you make sure that everybody register if they want to take the class? Could you share with them the email?
What is the email?
Oh, I'm sorry. So, for those who want to take nonviolence training, make sure you
Webinar.
eat. Yes, webinar. I'm sorry. Make sure you email us at nv365 at thekingcenter.org. That's nv365 at thekingcenter.org, and let us know you're interested, and we will definitely get back to you with our virtual sessions.
We see you tomorrow on this same platform as we continue the online protests.
Have a good night, everybody. Love you.
Good night.
Bye.